Today, we're going to break down a massive new government initiative called the Genesis Mission. The goal? Nothing less than to kickstart America's next great scientific mobilization. And we're going to explore this through the analysis of economist Richard Duncan, who's the author of The Money Revolution and publisher of MacroWatch. He makes a pretty compelling case that this mission is a major turning point for the country's future.
So, what exactly is the Genesis mission? Well, it all officially began on November 24th, 2025, with a presidential executive order. But this wasn't just some run-of-the-mill policy paper. Nope. This was the formal launch of a huge, coordinated national effort, really designed to reshape America's entire technological landscape.
And you just have to look at the language in the order itself to get a sense of the sheer ambition here. It talks about unleashing a new age of AI-accelerated innovation and discovery. So right from the very beginning, it's positioned as a total game changer. Which, of course, brings up the big question: why do this? And why now? Well, according to Richard Duncan's analysis, the answer is pretty straightforward. This mission isn't just a nice-to-have. It's viewed as absolutely essential for the future prosperity and, frankly, the security of the United States. I mean, the stakes really could not be higher. This whole mission is being framed as a direct answer to the intense technological race with China. At its very core, this is about making sure America maintains its global preeminence, that it leads the next great wave of progress instead of watching someone else take the lead. All right, so we know the stakes, but what is the Genesis mission really? Let's take a look under the hood at its core infrastructure. Okay, at the heart of the whole thing is something called the American Science and Security Platform. The best way to think about it is like the mission's AI-powered brain and central nervous system. It's designed to pull together supercomputers, massive federal data sets, and cutting-edge AI models, all under the management of the Department of Energy. And this whole platform is going to be driven by the Department of Energy's 17 national labs, which are spread out all across the country. I mean, these labs are the scientific backbone of this entire operation. We're talking about a workforce of roughly 40,000 scientists, engineers, and support staff. It's a huge mobilization.
But here's the thing. This is not just a government show. Far from it. This is a massive public-private partnership. Just look at this initial list of who's on board. You've got the titans of tech like Google, NVIDIA, Microsoft, and IBM, all working hand-in-hand with federal resources. The idea is to fuse government might with private sector agility and innovation. And this whole powerful machine is laser-focused on three main challenges. Number one, achieving American energy dominance. Think things like advanced nuclear and even fusion. Number two, pushing the absolute boundaries of science in areas like quantum computing. And number three, shoring up national security, which includes making sure the U.S. nuclear stockpile is safe and reliable.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly ambitious, right? Which leads to the billion-dollar question, or in this case, the many-billion-dollar question: how on earth is all this going to be paid for? So if you just look at the surface, the funding seems to start right here, with the Department of Energy's annual budget for fiscal year 2025. That's the year-to-year money that Congress approves, and it's sitting at about $52 billion. But that's really just the tip of the iceberg. Because when you start adding in the multi-year funding from huge laws like the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, while the DOE's total pool of resources balloons to a staggering $167 billion. That gives this mission an incredible amount of financial firepower right from day one. And what's really fascinating is if you look at how the Department of Energy's budget is already structured, you can see it's almost perfectly aligned with the Genesis mission's goals. I mean, nearly half of its budget already goes to national nuclear security. Another big slice goes to the Office of Science. These are the exact areas Genesis is meant to supercharge. And this brings us to a really crucial point in Duncan's analysis. The Genesis mission doesn't necessarily need a ton of new money. What it really needs, the Department of Energy already has in spades: the supercomputers, the scientific data, the world-class scientists, and now, thanks to the executive order, the authority to coordinate it all. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Richard Duncan argues that this mission didn't just pop up out of nowhere. In fact, he suggests it follows a strategic blueprint that he himself laid out years ago. And that blueprint comes from his 2022 book, The Money Revolution. He actually wrote it to try and convince policymakers to get way more aggressive about investing in the technologies of the future. And when you compare it to the Genesis mission, the parallels are pretty wild. Let's just start with the main idea. The money revolution called for a massive government-financed investment program in new tech. What is the Genesis mission? It's a national, AI-driven scientific mission led from the White House. It's the exact same concept in action. And look at the specific technologies they're targeting. Duncan's book pointed to AI, quantum computing, and renewable energy. The Genesis mission is aimed squarely at AI, quantum science, fusion, and semiconductors. The strategic overlap is just undeniable. It's almost a one-to-one match. And how about the structure? The book proposed setting up government-funded joint ventures with private industry. Well, the Genesis mission is built on that exact model of public-private partnership, combining government resources with corporate brainpower. So what you end up with is this. Even if the specific ways the money moves around are a little different, the core strategy is identical. It's all about directing the nation's financial and scientific power toward the industries of the future, using a government-led, public-private framework. So after you put all these pieces together, what does a mission this huge really mean for the country? Could this actually be the beginning of a new golden era for American science and innovation? Well, the U.S. Secretary of Energy certainly seems to think so. His words really capture the incredible optimism behind this mission, a plan to unleash the full power of America's resources and usher in a new golden era of American discovery. It's a big promise. And this brings us right back to Richard Duncan's main point. He argues that for years, the U.S. just didn't have a clear, unified plan to win the technological race of the century. But now, he says, it finally does. And that plan, that mission, is the Genesis mission. Which leaves us right here. Based on this analysis, the money is there, the supercomputers are ready, the data and the brilliant scientists are all in place. The blueprint has finally become a reality. So the only question left, the only thing that matters now, is can they pull it off? It all comes down to execution.